Hello everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabaz, and as ever, I am the IT Geek. So welcome back to, I think this is going to be the penultimate episode in Module 1, Dwayne. I think we're almost there. This is the third part of the Hybrid Identities episode. So, we're almost at the end of week 1 of our kind of release, almost at the end of Module 1 as well. So again, thank you everybody for your supporting. Let's get started straight away. Let's get cracking. Before I start, sorry, I apologise. I am joined by my co-host and co-partner, Dwayne. Dwayne Natwick. Hi, Dwayne. How are you?
Hey, Shabaz, doing well. Hi, everybody.
So kind of in the zone at the moment. I've totally forgot to actually say hello to you, Dwayne. I do apologise.
No worries.
So I'm hoping by now that you know who me and Dwayne are. We're both Microsoft MVPs. We're both heavily involved in the community. All of the socials for both myself and Dwayne, including Dwayne's YouTube channel, Captain Hyperscale. So please make sure you go subscribe to that channel. A great channel. Dwayne does some excellent kind of content, especially around security and Microsoft Cloud. So make sure you do follow him as well. But let's move on with this episode. So we're still on Module 1. We're nearly there. We're nearly at the end of this module. So hopefully you'll see a different picture next time when we start Module 2. And this module is called Implementing Identities in Azure AD, okay? So let's have a look at how we're going to break down this episode. So this is part 3 of the hybrid identities part of the series. So we're going to look at implementing single sign-on first of all and managing it. We'll then look at implementing and managing federation, and then we'll have two smaller demos, one on managing SSO, which I kind of think Dwayne touched a little bit on that in the last episode. But also we'll have a look at setting up ADFS via Azure AD Connect. So we're not going to go into setting up ADFS as a because it's huge and it's a bit out of the realms and out of the scope of this. I think you should already have an existing ADFS sort of infrastructure. But what we'll be showing is just through that Azure AD Connect how you can enable ADFS and configure it. Okay. So let's start off by talking about implementing and managing single sign-on. So let's look at some of the options first of all, okay? So when you do set up SSO to work between multiple identity providers, it's called federation, okay? And SSO implementation based on federation protocols improves your security, it improves your reliability, and it improves the end-to-end experience for the users. And let's be honest, I'm sure you'll agree, Dwayne, all these new fancy things we put in these services and features, they are all about improving that end user experience, aren't they?
Yep. Yes, exactly. It's making it easier to get them to adopt and adapt to additional security, and
Exactly.
and yeah, make it ultimately easier so that we can manage change.
Exactly. So with single sign-on, or with federated single sign-on, should I say, Azure AD authenticates a user to the application by using their Azure AD account. So this method is actually called SAML or WS Federation, or you can even use something called OpenID Connect applications. So just to touch on OpenID Connect, or OIDC is the acronym for it. This is an authentication protocol based on OAuth 2 protocol. So this is one of the new kind of modern authentication protocols now that Microsoft are utilizing. So this is used for authorization. So with OpenID Connect, it uses the standard message flows from OAuth 2 to provide the identity service. Okay, so just a little bit of background on OpenID Connect for those who don't know what it is. So single sign-on is not available when the app is hosted in a different tenant. Okay, so you need to make sure the applications that you want to configure that federation single sign-on is actually is hosted in the same tenant as where you're configuring single sign-on. Okay, so that's quite an important fact. And finally, single sign-on is also not available if a user account does not have the relevant permissions. Permissions, and especially with identity and sort of this element is very important. So you need to make sure that you have that. So that could be, as we all know, global administrator, but please don't do that. Or it could be the sort of cloud applications administrator. I think application administrator. There are a few more as well. I think, for example, if you're like the owner of the service principal as well, that has the relevant permissions. So a few things to note on the relevant permissions there as well. So the next sort of option is the password option for single sign-on. Okay, so on-premises applications can use password-based method for single sign-on. That is possible with your on-premise. Obviously, with single sign-on and ADFS and things like that, they are kind of hybrid, and this is why you can utilize single sign-on configured through Azure with on-premises as well. Okay. This choice works when applications are configured for the application proxy. We are going to be going into talking about application proxy further in this series, so please don't worry if you're not sure what that is. But the sort of password single sign-on option works when applications are configured with Azure at proxy. So with password-based single sign-on, users sign into the application with their username and password the first time they access it. After that first login, Azure already provides a username and password to the application, so you don't need to keep on logging in essentially. So again, makes it more, the user more productive because they don't have to keep on putting in the password. And the final bit on this option, the password option, is this single sign option allows administrators to manage your passwords. So this option uses an existing signing process provided by the application. So it enables an administrator to manage those passwords and doesn't require the user to know that password. Okay, so this is a good way of forgetting your password as well, because once you've put it in that first time, you don't really need to put it in again. The amount of times I've had to kind of scramble my brain, like, when you're changing laptops maybe, oh crap, rubbish, I used to have single sign-on with that, what's my password again? So always good fun when those times do arrive. So the third sort of single sign-on option I wanted to look at was linked, this linked single sign-on option, okay? So linked single sign-on options can provide a consistent user experience while you're migrating applications over a period of time. So, especially if you're migrating on premises to cloud. If you're migrating applications to Azure AD, you can use link-based single sign-on to quickly publish links to all the applications you intend to migrate. Okay. And all links can be found in the My Apps portal, which I'm sure you might have used in the past. So that's where the sort of single sign options for linked applications are stored. Finally, on this option, you cannot apply conditional access to policies or MFA for that matter to a linked application, because the linked application does not provide single sign-on capabilities through Azure AD. So just one thing to know if you do have any questions around link, just be wary that you can't apply any conditional access policies. Hence, you can't apply multi-factor authentication, and that's what that point there brings up as well. And as I mentioned, linked apps do not provide single sign-on via Azure AD. So one I suppose you might not think about, but when single sign-on is actually disabled, so this is actually an option you can implement if you want to disable it. I don't know why you'd want it, but if you do want it, it's not available for any applications. So when single sign-on is disabled, users might need to authenticate twice. So again, be less productive. First, users authenticate to Azure AD, and then they sign into the application. So it does, that connection between Azure AD and the application isn't there, so you need to sign in multiple times. I suppose there are scenarios. Just making that point, you use authenticate multiple times. There are a couple of scenarios where when disabling SSO is appropriate, I suppose. So, when you're not ready to integrate this application with Azure AD single sign-on, when you're testing the applications as well. And also when on-premise applications don't require users to authenticate, which shudder to think about why you'd want to not authenticate to an application. But, in that option, you would disable single sign-on. So I just want to spend a few minutes just talking about implementing and managing federation before I do hand over to, again, just starting to have a bit of pain in my throat, Dwayne, so the handover is imminent. But let's talk about implementing and managing federation. So again, let's use a diagram. So here we have Azure AD, those Office apps, SaaS-based applications. We have on-premises Active Directory. But then what we have is this concept of a web application proxy, okay? So this is normally hosted technically on premises, but in a different network to your other service. So this will be in what's called a demilitarized zone, or a DMZ. And Azure AD Connect is configured with federation. Dwayne is going to talk about that in the demo later on. We have our intranet user here with their many devices. And they sign into their on-premises, okay? They're using the intranet and they sign into on-premises. They also sign into to gain the access to Azure AD, they access it, their applications direct to Azure AD. We then have our friend here who is an external user. So they might have a tablet of some sort. Now, because they're external, they're not an internal or internet user. They actually need to use the web application proxy to sign in. So they don't sign in directly to Active Directory on premises or Azure AD. They go through this web application proxy. And that's how they gain access to those cloud resources. Okay, so whereas the internal user has to log into on premises to access, and then the federation works that way. With the external user, they have to actually authenticate and sign into the application proxy, and that then allows them to access resources in the cloud. Okay, so just want to touch on a couple of the requirements of federation with ADFS before I do hand over. So some of the requirements are you need to have local administrator login for the federation servers. Okay, so you need to make sure you have the correct access rights. The local administrator login you need for any of the servers hosting the web application proxy. So again, because they are outside your network, they won't be domain joined. They will be locally accessed. So make sure you have that local login for those because they're on a work group. They're not domain joined. And finally, the machine that you run the wizard on to be able to connect to the other servers and the other machines that you want to install the ADFS or web application proxy must be able to use the Windows remote management service. Okay, so you need to make sure the devices, the ADFS servers within your network can connect to the relevant web proxy servers as well. Okay, so that'll require firewall rules normally. Over to you, Dwayne.
All right. Thanks, Shabaz. So we are in the Azure AD portal right now, and if you scroll down and go to Azure AD Connect, we can look and see what we've done thus far over here. We can scroll down. In the last demo, we set up pass-through authentication. You can see it is now showing as enabled in here. It's saying I have one agent connected, and you can see this little in Azure and Azure AD. When you see this little amber exclamation point and a triangle, that means that you're not doing something that that meets kind of standard practices within what others do and what would be kind of your best practice installation. And if you scroll over it, it says, and you might not be able to see this in the video, but it gives you a little comment box that says, please install 3 or more pass-through agents for high availability. So we mentioned this in the demo that you want to have at least one other member server. The recommendation is 3 or more. So have a lot of these pass-through agents. They're very lightweight, so it's not like they're going to take a whole lot of resources on your member servers, but it does give you that high availability. So we've got that going right now. I don't have seamless single sign-on. We can very easily do that in terms of the user sign-in experience. If I go back to Azure AD Connect here, give that a second here, and just select configure and go to change user sign-in. It's going to make me log in again. Still signed in, so it's not going. It's going to make me do my password again. Timed out since the last demo. And give me a second to do my MFA. And here we are connected here. So here, very easy. If I want to enable on my pass-through authentication single sign-on, I can just select that here. Enables the corporate users to have the same sign-in experience with cloud. I can select that and go through and select next. Now, it's that easy. I'll just go ahead and enable this here. You can see I have to enter my domain credentials to do this. So to enable the single sign-on. And now it's configuring my single sign-on. So once this goes through, and we do the start sync here, if I go back to, all right, and I'll exit. If I go back and let's refresh here to my agent, it's taking a minute. It's going to take a minute to get that going here, but you can see I will have single sign-on enabled here shortly. So we've got that going on the pass through. But let's say we want to, we're going to get a little more complex. Another reason why we use Federation is maybe we're not utilizing Azure AD MFA. We want to use something like Okta or some other MFA software. We would have to use Federation for that as well. So we would go back here again, go to the change user sign in. I'm going to have to log in again. Wish they had single sign on Azure AD Connect, but not so lucky. All right. And it's going to take me back to my setup screen. And you can see we got a couple of options here for Federation. We've got ping federated as well as ADFS. ADFS is the most common. Again, we hit ADFS. We hit enable. We can do the enable single sign-on here. It's grayed out right now, mostly because this is going to start installing the farm. We can come back and fix that later. Now, key thing around ADFS and Federation is you have to have that web proxy server, that web proxy server that Shabaz had mentioned. I don't have that in my environment. I don't, it's not set up. It's, obviously this is the most complex setup that you will have in terms of a hybrid identity and infrastructure. But again, nice thing about Azure AD Connect is it steps you through everything that you need. You even have this little learn more button here that'll take you out to Microsoft Docs and give you all your hardware requirements, what your requirements are for setting that all up. So that's very helpful. It's not something that that you really need to worry about from an exam perspective, but keep in mind that this is the most complex aspect. So if I go to next, again, need my domain controller. I'm not going to go through all of this setup for this. If you want to know more, feel free to go through and step through it yourself. I'm not going to, because there's just way too much setup for a single demo. You don't really need to know that much. Just note that Federation with ADFS is available. It is it is the most complex of the three options because you have all of these additional setups that you have to do. You can see you got you do the credentials, you got your ADFS farm, and everything that goes along with it to set that up. You can look and see here, I refreshed in my Azure AD Connect dashboard, and you can see now that single sign-on though that I enabled for pass-through authentication is now enabled as well. So now I have single sign-on available for those contoso.com users and pass-through authentication. Like I said, if I had the infrastructure in place for the web application proxy for my Federation with ADFS, I could do that as well. But again, not super important for the exam. Just note that is the third option and the most complex in terms of infrastructure. So with that being said, I think we are good for this demo, Shabaz. So back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much again, Dwayne. Very, very good demo. Once again, obviously, I'm sure our viewers can appreciate that. The ADFS setup is a bit out of scope. Just we want to show Azure AD Connect's features, and that because that's what's relevant to the exam. Okay. So yeah, thank you very much, Dwayne, for that. Again, thank you everybody for watching this episode. We have one more left in module 1, so do stick with us. Again, all our links to our socials are in the description. Most importantly, a link to Dwayne's book of the SC300 exam by Pact is also in the description. Do buy that book. It'll be a great combination to follow that book as we go along. Because obviously, we're talking 15-20 minute episodes here. There's only a certain amount of information we can obviously give. We can't go deep dive with exact details of a lot of time. It's more of an overview to try and guide you. The book will add that extra context because, again, I technically reviewed it. Dwayne goes into some really good granular detail about all these topics. And there's also loads of questions as well within the book and answers you can get, to test your knowledge. So, make sure you buy that, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And up until next time, goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.